President from his first State of the Union address last night. One of the things that really stood out is the Democrats. You can even see some of them like instinctively want to stand. But, they refuse to applaud or stand up, even when the president talked about really good things for the country, job creation. They sit on their hands. Higher wages. They sit on their hands. The lowest African-American, Hispanic unemployment rates ever. And nobody applauds. All the bonuses, the crumbs, as Nancy Pelosi calls them, the $1,000, $2,000 bonuses for employees, the good news that we have had securing the border, even opioid epidemic, the fight that's gone on there, and immigration, and, the American flag, the national anthem, In God We Trust, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, greatly diminishing the Islamic State, lower prescription drugs, defense, everything. There's not one thing that they can point to and say, you know what, the president's done a really good job. We didn't expect it, but he did a really good job on this or that. Anyway, joining us now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us. Let's get your overall view of the president's speech last night.
Well, I thought on balance, particularly when you add in the extraordinary way that they brought guests who fit not just stories, but guests who personified key parts of America. I would rate it better than any State of the Union Ronald Reagan gave. And that's about as high a praise as you're going to get.
Did you see that the Heritage Foundation, their calculations, they rated Donald Trump's first year more conservative than Reagan's?
Oh, I think that's particularly when you take the judges and you take the deregulation stuff. I've asked several people to check because I don't have an answer for this, but my hunch is that President Trump has deregulated more red tape in his first year than Reagan did in 8 years. I mean, what Trump did.
Well, the president said that last night. That they've done more in 1 year than all presidents combined in terms of eliminating regulation, which is in and of itself a spectacular achievement. I want to ask you, before we get into the specifics, this is interesting to me, because I know that when Steve Bannon was there and all this talk about nationalism and populism, I watched it from afar. Ever since you have known me, now going back to 1990 and even before then, I always identified as a Reagan conservative. I've never changed my views or my values. And I make the case that the State of the Union speech last night, the president's policies, that which he is fighting for, are conservative, not nationalist populist. And you and I have discussed it a little in the past. Is he governing as a conservative? I believe he is.
Oh, sure. But he's a conservative with some very interesting twists. He's very entrepreneurial, so he's very much focused on getting things done. That makes him more activist than any conservative probably since Theodore Roosevelt. He is very aware of how the world has changed. So his belief in putting America first is much more intense than it would have been for Reagan, who was leading a country which was at the peak of its power, and where, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, there were no natural peer competitors. So Trump, in that sense, is in a slightly different world. He also faces just a radically more hostile left than anything we've seen in our lifetime. And last night, and I know you had the same feeling. You watch the black and the Hispanic caucuses refuse to applaud when the President of the United States announces this is the lowest level of black unemployment in history. It's the lowest level of Hispanic unemployment in history, both of which, by the way, have been validated by the fact checkers. You would have thought surely they could applaud the fact that people in their communities were now finding jobs. They couldn't do it. They disliked Trump more than they liked their own folks getting a job.
You know, I think we're going to watch this economic resurgence continue. I mean, I think the tax plan is going to have a massive impact on the economy. Every president, including Reagan, wanted open ANWR. Now it's open. The Obamacare mandate is dead. Corporate tax cuts, repatriation, energy independence. I think we're looking at millions of high-paying career jobs and the added bonus that we produce the lifeblood of our economy, our own energy, and we can even export some. So I think this is going to, even in a year, I think we'll see some massive improvements. And here's what I don't understand. Jimmy Carter failed spectacularly with his liberal policies as president. It paved the way for Reagan. Here you have, on any measure economically, under Obama, 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. You had the worst recovery in 40 years, lowest home ownership rate in 51 years, and he doubled the national debt, accumulated more debt than every other president before him combined. Now we see a reversal. But why is there always this ebb and flow politically that somehow the rhetoric, as eloquently as it was delivered by Barack Obama, then becomes appealing to the country? We always keep experimenting with something we know is ultimately going to fail.
Well, I think part of that's because you've had a very narrow balance of power, really beginning with George H.W. Bush breaking his word on no new taxes, which in many ways broke the morale of the conservative movement. And from that point to here, you've had this constant back and forth in a country which is very narrowly divided. And what we don't know yet is whether with Trump's extraordinary achievements and his great communication skills, we are actually seeing the beginning of a new era in which we put together an American patriotic national movement that is committed to economic growth, committed to excellence, committed to merit, and willing to continuously reform government until things work. If that comes together, then you'll get the way you know that this is real is you get 16 to 20 years of the same team in charge, and the country keeps reelecting them because it's working. But I think what you had was with George W. Bush, the combination of not winning in Iraq and Afghanistan, combined with the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008, set the stage for a Barack Obama, who ran at the time, despite your best efforts to pull the mask off and describe who he really was. He ran at the time as a guy who was a common sense, mainstream, we can get this done together. You'll get to keep your doctor, you get to keep your insurance company. I mean, a lot of what he said was just plain a lie, which is the hallmark of modern liberalism, because if they tell the truth, they're going to lose.
Let me move on. We are hearing both from General Kelly and the president last night that he wants to release and be transparent and release the memo from the House Intel Committee. It's very interesting if you look at the history of how this memo came into place. The House Intelligence Committee had requested documents from the DOJ, and then up to the last hour, the DOJ was unwilling to hand them over. And a last-ditched effort not to hand them over, Rod Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller, he races into Paul Ryan's office and says, please don't make us release these. Anyway, Ryan stood by Devin Nunes. Nunes reads the documents. He writes a memo about how flagrant FISA abuses and other things are, and the people involved in a concerted effort to play politics with the intel community, which is very dangerous. And now the FBI is weighing in on all of this. Now, they cannot report any inaccuracies in the memo, but they still don't want it released. Why wouldn't they? Well, I guess I understand for personal reasons why they wouldn't want it released, but why wouldn't they want full transparency so we can clean up any mess of any upper echelon people that are hurting rank and file, hardworking members of the intel community, FBI, and Department of Justice?
Look, I think the damage that is being done to the reputation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the reputation of the Justice Department is just breathtakingly large, and this memo apparently absolutely validates that the reputations ought to be damaged. And again, let's be clear, we're not talking about the average, everyday FBI agent who's honest and sincere and goes to work to enforce the law. We're talking about a small group of people at the top who were so corrupted in the Obama years, both at Justice and at the FBI. And I think they realize that when these things, apparently, just based on what we've seen happen already, when this stuff comes out, that it is just explosive. And so there's a certain amount of protecting themselves, protecting their friends. They can make an argument that it releases too much of information about how our FISA system works. But the truth is, we're in a situation right now where the American people deserve to know these things, and the American people have every right to be offended by the way this has been handled.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back more with Newt Gingrich, his best-selling book, Vengeance, in bookstores now. He's in the process of writing another book about Donald Trump. We'll tell you about that. All right, as we continue, former Speaker of the House and author of the New York Times bestseller, Vengeance, Newt Gingrich is with us, getting reaction to the State of the Union. So when this memo comes out, here's what we do know. And imagine, let's reverse roles here. And I've asked you this question on TV, but I think it's worth going back to. Hillary rigs a primary, according to Donna Brazile. When the evidence is all said and done, Bernie had no shot. It was rigged. Comey, Strzok, Page, McCabe, and maybe even Loretta Lynch, are involved in exonerating Hillary on the email server scandal where we know felonies were committed months before they ever investigate her or the principals involved. Exonerate before investigating. Hillary then pays for a Russian dossier full of lies, misinformation, and propaganda, ironically from Russia, to mislead the American people in a general election. And then you've got that same dossier bought and paid for, used as the foundation to secure a FISA warrant against an opposition candidate in an election year and then a president-elect. Now, let's say Donald Trump did all of that to Hillary. Where would the country be? Where would the media be?
Well, look, and I know.
Why are you laughing at my question? It's a good question.
Well, but you and I both know that the elite media is the left. The elite media has now got this terrible problem that they really built up the whole Russian story thinking it was going to get Trump, and now instead it's getting Democrats. They don't know what to do. They're sort of spinning like tops. Publications which were thrilled to release U.S. secrets and were happy to publish things that might harm our national security are now totally confused about whether or not they really want to know. Suddenly transparency may not be a good idea in terms of publishing this paper. And I think it's very clear that, and I hope everyone listening to us understands how vivid this is. We live in a country where there was an enormous danger that had Secretary Clinton won, that all of this would have been covered up, the sickness would have continued, the very people who are now being forced out would still be in power, and we were in really great danger of the Justice Department and the FBI becoming instruments of political power. And it's pretty clear that they were being used in the last part of 2016 in ways that are a total violation of the rule of law and a total violation of the American Constitution. I think this is just very vividly clear, and people need to understand how bad this is. And you need to understand that the elite media is not the referees covering the fight. The elite media is the offensive wing of the left, and it's totally in the game, and it is totally committed to creating a narrative that's just factually false, but that is necessary. If you're a liberal, you can't afford just to believe in the truth. You have to invent new things that prop up your side no matter what the truth is.
All right, Mr. Speaker, appreciate you being with us. You'll be on Hannity tonight.
I'm going to be on tonight. Looking forward to it.
9 Eastern. We'll have reaction to all of this, and it looks like the memo could be released today or as early as tomorrow. We're following that story very closely. FBI is trying to prevent, not FBI, top echelon people in justice, in intel, and the FBI trying to prevent it. We'll have all the details, 9 Eastern on Hannity. Quick break, right back.